Now then, we talked last week about Henry's interview with Marcus Rashford, which rather set the cat among the pigeons, where he talked about the fact that he wanted a new challenge. Ruben Amorim reacted to that a bit more after our show last week and said, actually, it was very bad advice that Marcus Rashford took to talk with Henry. It felt like Marcus had sort of been called in, maybe, and asked what the circumstances were, and maybe said, there were other people around, and they said it would be a good idea to talk to Henry, and Henry was very keen to do this, and hey, we thought it would all work very nicely, but it's gone a bit pear-shaped. All right, Marcus, you're banished again. No more first team for you.
I love it when you pluck facts.
I didn't. It wasn't a fact. I said it sounded like.
Yeah. Okay. Sounded like. So sounded like. So speculation. Sounded like you're making things up. So look, let's get some facts here in terms of what you said. Marcus Rashford actually spoke after being dropped for the Manchester derby. So he was already left out.
Yes, but there may have been redemption for him, but unfortunately he went on to talk to you and that finished it off. That's sort of my point.
So reading your paper, reading individuals like James Ducker in the Sunday Telegraph,
I'm not blaming
Paul
you for
Hurst
it. I think it's a great
the Times. No, it's nothing to do with that. But just sort of just reading all the sort of, the very well-connected Manchester United correspondents like James, like Paul, Chris Wheeler, all, in your paper as well, your brother, they are the mood music way before, in fact, the Manchester derby, way before he even spoke when going back to his old primary school to hand out 410 gifts. You kind of sort of overlooked.
No, but you keep seeming to think that's got something to do with his form. It hasn't. They're two completely separate.
Okay, so there are two elements here. So his form's not been good enough. I absolutely accept that. But the mood music coming out of Manchester United was clearly that Rashford, I mean, they were even putting prices on it in your paper that they were going to try and get 40 million. No, all papers. Right. About sort of 40 million quid for him to be sold. So then he, sort of being a nosy journalist, I sort of asked him these questions. Remember, this had already been delayed a week because Manchester United had one of their many great foundation events, and so it got delayed a week. And so maybe if you've got an individual who senses that his employers aren't completely backing him, he's got every right to voice his concerns so the fans know his side of the story.
Well, another man who's very well connected is Andy Mitten of United We Stand, who joined Kick-Off last night with Jason Cundy and Rory Jennings to give his opinion on Rashford, and says Ruben Amorim isn't the first Man United boss to raise issue with the 27-year-old.
Every previous manager has had issues with Marcus Rashford. I've spoken to them. I know them. They've told me in confidence going back years and years and years. Marcus Rashford is not celebrated by United fans as he was. His stock is clearly very, very low. But clearly he's nowhere near the levels that he would have hoped for. Lots of these changes don't look good either. And the direction of travel is towards big price rises. This football club is losing an absolute fortune. These players cost an absolute fortune. Their salaries dwarf the figures that are being cut when we hear of the various cuts, and there will be more cuts as well. And it's very, very awkward.
Now, I know you have a lot of respect for Andy Mitten,
yeah, huge.
As we all do. He is right about that. We highlighted it in our paper. Each manager he's had has raised issues with him. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen to other players, but there has been a sort of consistent run of them with each manager. So you would feel the problem may be with Marcus rather than the managers.
No, I think it's partly the culture of the club. You get some decent strikers in there. Anthony Martial, has he delivered? No. Rasmus Højlund, okay, he's young and he works hard. May he deliver in the future? Probably. And then you look out wide, obviously Rashford plays best coming in off the left. Garnacho came through. He's not quite kicked on, but clearly he's a thoroughbred and he will. Anthony, he's probably his last decent match was Cleopatra. I mean, when have we seen Anthony for the price that he cost? Remember, Marcus Rashford's homegrown. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's not simply a Marcus Rashford issue. I completely accept what Andy says. To take his quote, Andy Mitten, he's not near the levels that he can achieve that he did. Was it 2 seasons ago when he got the 30 goals? But it's a cultural issue at Manchester United as well as individual individual technical, tactical things, or particularly tactical things with Marcus Rashford not tracking back enough, issues with the body language. But you tell me, in the last 5-6 years, who has consistently delivered for Manchester United? It's a cultural problem there. Whether that's the Glazers' philosophy, about taking from the club rather than giving, whether it's tactical issues as well. I think Marcus Rashford is almost like a sort of lightning rod for general criticism of issues and the underachievement of this great club. But clearly he needs to do better.
It happens at every club, I think. But do you think the local lad always gets it worse, and that they're expected to do more because they died in the wool United fans and they've got the badge on the shirt and they grew up as a fan? And
I think there's an element of that. I mean, just look at Anthony's performance. Anthony came in on big money for a big fee and has just pretty much stunk the place out. There is a good player in there, but he's very one-footed. He needs to sort of develop more, and yet Marcus Rashford seems to get it. I agree, the Belfast trip wasn't sensible. Some of the tracking back, I absolutely get that, the body language. But then you've got this irony. If the club are thinking that they can generate some money for him, from him, then obviously he is worth something. I think it's a very complicated deal to do because of the wages that he's on. Could he go on loan with an obligation to buy? He doesn't fit tactically into Ruben Amorim's template. But I think the general mood amongst the Manchester United fans seems to be absolutely supportive of the manager and wanting a clear out of the squad. And obviously that includes Marcus Rashford.
It's interesting you say about the style of play, because there's Martin Samuel talks in the Sunday Times today. Amorim sticking to his style at all costs has made United even worse.
Yeah, I mean, it was brave to do it without a pre-season. But I guess he had no choice. Would he have gone in and been better off doing a sort of 4-3-3? I mean, you look at a player like Lisandro Martinez, who's an absolutely outstanding centre-half. The back three he has issues with. It doesn't help they haven't got a sort of proper left-sided wing-back. They haven't really got a right-sided wing-back, you could argue as well. That, if you're going to back Amorim, you have to give him the patience, you have to give him the funds, you probably have to give him at least 2 summer transfer windows to turn this around. I know we said that with all previous Manchester United managers, but he is a young manager with his strong ideas. He wants to sort of clearly continue that way. I mean, it's a very good read by Martin and very well argued as ever with Martin. But I think the nature of Ruben Amorim is that this is now all about the manager, all about his tactical template, and the players, if they don't fit into it, they're going to have to go. Martin
actually says the bottom line is that Ten Hag got better results and they weren't great as a team, and he got better results than Amorim's getting. I mean, Amorim's on a bad run. but I couldn't tell you what a Ten Hag team was trying to be. I couldn't tell you sort of tactically. Okay, so we know what an Amorim team's trying to be, but it's not working.
Absolutely.
Like Postecoglou's sticking to the principles no matter what. Well, he's still tumbling down the table.
Mikel Arteta, the first couple of years, he had to address the squad. It wasn't simply about strengthening it. It was about getting rid of players like Aubameyang, who, whether it was tactical, whether it was discipline, whatever, he needed to move on from. And this is because it's Manchester United, and because this is a squad that has been developed and added to by different managers, different tactical templates. I think the difference now also with Manchester United is that even with Dan Ashworth leaving, you have got a proper football structure in place.
We
hope.
Text here, Henry. Here we go again. Henry Winter doing everything he can to protect the English player. Marcus Rashford is bang average. That's all he is. Just accept that he isn't as good as you think, says Ryan.
I don't think you play at an elite level for club and country without having a certain
But you do think he needs a new challenge. You do agree with him, do you?
I mean, I think it's sad that you're leaving Manchester United when you're a local boy. Then you think, wow, just try and turn it around. And where do you go to? Certainly, where's he going to get the those sort of wages? Maybe he does need to move on. And look, I think the mood music from in the club, the decision's already been made.
Could he go in January?
I think it's too difficult a deal to do.
I agree with you.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.